Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to share with you how to make these easy silhouette cards. For the tutorial today, I'm going to be using this set of silhouette card fronts that you can find in my Etsy shop. These are both PNG and SVG. I will be using a Cricut machine to do my cutting today. However, if you do not have a cutting machine, I will show you at the end of this video how you can do this with dies because I've done it before and it works just as well. But in this set, you do get 16 pieces. It is an A2 card front set. You get it with the sentiments and you get it without the sentiments because I realize my sentiments that I like aren't everybody's taste. So I went ahead and gave you both options in the set. They are exactly the same. Just one has the sentiment underneath that your cutting machine will cut out. The other one doesn't. And I'll show you how to use both in this video. And you can either do your sentiment by adding it in yourself, by stamping, or by die cutting later. And then I also included just the silhouettes themselves so you can have some fun with those too. Now I will be doing my tutorial on an iPad today in Cricut Design Space. You can do the same thing on a computer. I just like to work on my iPad because it's more compact. I have more space on my desk when I use this. So that's what I'm using today. And it's quicker for me too. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Cricut Design Space app on my tablet. Now, once I open that up, I am going to start bringing in my files that I want to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and click on New Project. And then here you'll see something else that's coming up in the future. I'm going to go ahead and replace the project I was working on. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my card front. Now, whenever I bring this in, I'm going to go ahead and click Next. I'm using the PNG versions here. I feel more comfortable using PNG versions. That's just me. I'm used to working with those more, but the files also contain SVGs if you want to use those too. Either way works. I'm going to go ahead and bring in and just click the cut option, click next, and I named mine some random name just so it would be in my program. That's going to bring the image into all of my images that I have uploaded here. And again, you're going to see some projects for the future. That's okay, a little sneak peek. I'll go ahead and click on the one I want to insert and then click insert. Now, once I've done that, it's going to load into my program. It is quite large at this stage. However, these are sized for A2. So I'm just going to go down to my edit option and edit the size down. I'm going to edit my width to 4.25 inches, so 4¼ inches, and that's going to make my height 5½ inches automatically. Now, the great thing about this is if you're making an A2 card and you want it to fill the whole thing, go ahead and size it to 4¼ by 5½. However, if you want to mat it, you can size it down any way you want to. So I like to go about 1/4 inch. So if I wanted to mat behind it, I would do about 4 inches by 5¼ inches, and then I would put that mat behind it. So it really is up to you how you want to do this. You can size down though. I'm also going to go ahead and load up the silhouettes the same way here. Here I'm using this plant in the planter. And I'm doing that the exact same way. The only thing that is going to be different here is the sizing. So here I just kind of guesstimate how large I want it to be. You can go as large or as small as you want to with these. It really is up to you. I struggle with sizing, so what I like to do is if I have one of my card fronts that's 4¼ by 5½, I like to go ahead and size it and kind of look at it next to that card front, and that helps me see, okay, I might want it a little smaller, okay, I might want it a little larger, and just go off of that. You can also measure the space on your card if you're matting it and you want it to be a certain size. Measure it and just go into your program and do it that way. Now, once I have all the images I want to load up, I'm going to go ahead and click Make It. Once I've done that, I'm going to change my cut file or my cutting surface size to 8½ by 11. It automatically loads up into a 12 by 12. I am a card maker, so I have 8½ by 11 sheets of paper. Use whatever size you have. You can also do these in different colors and use your snap mat feature. Once I've got everything ready, I'm going to go ahead and click the top right hand corner, that little turquoise button, and I'm going to select an accessory. Mine takes a little bit to load. I was running off of my phone's hotspot because our internet was out, so it takes a little bit. And then I'll click on my machine. Then it is ready to go. All I need to do is select my material. Now here's where you need to look at the cardstock you're using. I am using a craft cardstock. This is from Michael's. It's a 65-pound weight. But I have found that if I use the 65-pound weight option in the program, it doesn't cut all the way through. So I do 80 pounds with this cardstock, and then I click the next option and it tells me to load up my mat. So I'm just going to follow the instructions from here on out. I'm using the light blue light grip mat, and I am loading up my paper in the top left-hand corner, making sure that it's lined up and smooth down to the surface, and I don't have any lumps or bumps underneath it from old cutting projects. Then I'll go ahead and load up. You can see my little load button is blinking to the right there. That means it's ready to be clicked, and it's going to drag in my mat here. You want to make sure your mat is underneath both of those little tabs. You'll click your load button, and the machine is going to grab it and roll it in. So you don't even have to think about it. You know it's in the right spot. You know it's ready to go. Those tabs are there for you. Then once I've done that, the machine recognizes it and it says to press go. And that little light is going to be blinking. It's your C with the little antennas. You're going to click it and it's going to start cutting. Now at this point, I'm just going to let it go and do its work. Now over on my tablet, while this is cutting, it's going to give me a little progress circle, so you can kind of see where it is in the cutting stage and see how much time you have left. This doesn't take too long. A whole sheet of 8.5 by 11 takes like 3 to 4 minutes. It's not super a long time, but while I'm doing that, I like to go ahead and get card bases ready or just start thinking about what else I'm going to be doing on my project. Once it's done, it's going to let me know I can unload my paper by clicking that same unload button. The great thing about this machine is it lights up the buttons for you. You don't need to think about, am I pressing the right one? You just press whatever one's blinking. It's ready to go. And then I can go ahead and take off all of my cut pieces. Now, with this, I have found that if you remove the mat from the paper, not the paper from the mat, you don't get that curling. So instead of bending your paper, bend the mat. These mats can take it. They are meant to be consumables, so you might have to buy more in the long run, but they're not horribly expensive, and I would rather not have curl to my paper and fight it and just bend my mat a little bit. Now I use a spatula, a very old one from the original Cricut, to get everything off. If it's not broke, I don't tend to buy new ones. And then I use a scraper to get off all those little pieces. You can buy these fairly cheaply on Amazon. I will leave some links down below. But it makes getting rid of all those little pieces super quick. Now, if you are new to card making, I am going to be using an A2 card base. That is what these are sized for. That's what I designed them for. An A2 size card is 4¼ inches wide by 5½ inches tall. You can flip it and use it either way, but that's the size of it. Now, if you do not know how to make card bases, that's okay, because we were all new at one point. So what I have on my blog, and I will leave this link down below, is this printable. It's free, but it just tells you the steps of how to make different card sizes. I'm going to be using the A2 card, so I've got what I need to make this. It says you need an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and you can make 2 cards from 1 sheet. So I'm going to be making the top folding card. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this paper into my paper trimmer. I am using 110-pound cardstock for my card base. You want a stiffer card base so it stands up nicely. I'm putting that in at 4¼ and cutting it right down the middle. Then I'm going to look at my instructions, and it says the next thing I need to do is fold that sheet at 5½ inches. So I'm going to go ahead and take my sheet, flip it to where the long side is at the top, line it up at 5½ inches, and put a score mark in there. You don't have to do this. You can just fold it in half, but with a thicker cardstock, you might get some cracking along the top. So I like to score mine. You can also use a score pal or something along those lines. Then it's time to fold it. Now, just by nature, I would want to fold where I've pressed down. So it's made an indentation in the paper. I would think I'd want to fold it that way, but you don't. You want to go ahead and turn it over, and where it's raised, you want to fold over on that line. Because you have indented the paper is kind of pressed down there. It's more moldable that way. So flip it over, give it a nice crease with your bone folder, and your card base is ready to go. Now with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, you get 2 A2 card bases. No matter which way you do it, you get 2. And you have no leftover waste. That's why this is most popular with card makers, because there's no leftover waste you have to think about using, and you get a nice size card front. But if you would rather make another size, those are all listed in that card base, how to make them in that file that you can get for free over on my blog. Now, the easiest way to put these cards together is just glue them onto the card base. You can cut these. I cut them from craft paper. You can cut them from white, do white on white for a very simple card. You can cut them from black or do a black layer underneath. But the easiest way to do this is just go ahead and glue on the card fronts or pop them up with foam tape and you're good to go. And it makes a beautiful card. Very easy and quick to get in the mail. However, I'm going to show you a few ways that you can kind of spice these up and make them your own. So the first way is by adding a little color behind them. So here I'm going to go ahead and add some foam tape. This foam tape is just going to give a little bit of dimension. And what that dimension does is it creates a shadow. So if you're doing tone on tone, this is a great way to kind of differentiate the layers and really be able to see those cut lines. So you can do white on white with a bit of foam tape, and that shadow will give you the definition you need. However, I'm going to add a little bit of craft paper behind here just for that extra contrast. You could do any color you wanted here. I just like craft. So I put the foam tape down, remove the backing paper, put on my craft paper, which I have just some regular tape adhesive on. And then I'll go ahead, take the backing paper off of that and load that onto my card base. Again, that's A2 in size and it's a white card base. I'll line it up. This is a full A2, so it covers the whole card front and it's ready to go. And you can see that little bit of shadow really helps kind of give that definition. Even with a tone on tone, if you were to do it that way, you'd still get that definition just with that little bit of dimension. Now you can also just kind of do a half here. Here I added some glitter paper behind just the flower portion and left the sentiment completely blank, so it's just going to be white underneath. This one I also cut to 4 inches by 5.25 inches. So I've got that little bit of a border all the way around, which gives a nice effect as well. And I didn't have to add a mat underneath. It just automatically gave me that border. But the glitter paper adds a nice shine to it. Now, I've used some sentiments. Now we're going to go to the ones without the sentiments. You can use without the sentiments the same exact way as with the sentiments, but the great thing about without the sentiments, you get more room to play. So here I'm going to go ahead and cut out this little plant just with my paper trimmer, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm trying to get a nice even border all the way around. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, just eyeballing it with my paper trimmer. So I'll cut that out, and then I'm going to add a green mat behind it. I just measured my cardstock, and then I added about 1/4 inch to each side. That's going to give me 1/8 inch mat around all of the sides. Then I'll go ahead and just mount that onto my card base. So again, that silhouette, but it's just a little bit smaller. I also used my Cricut to go ahead and trim out thanks that I just made from a PNG file. I will try to get some sentiments up in my Etsy shop that I have used in this video. Probably not with this video, but hopefully soon. But I cut out 4 of them. That's a trick I like to do. And then I just like to glue them all together. That gives a nice thick sentiment. So you get that dimension and it just looks really beautiful. So I glued that onto the card, and then I also put on my little plant at the top with some adhesive. When you're dealing with 2 different pieces like this, I kind of like to lay them out at first and glue one piece down, then take the other one and glue it. That way you kind of get a sense of where everything needs to be to line up so everything's nice and centered. I'm using a liquid glue on this Thanks sentiment. That's the best way to get these down. You can add little bitty drops and then use your finger to kind of spread it out over the thanks, the back of it, since these are so delicate and small. Then I'll just go ahead and press that down. I put something heavy on top to hold it while it dried, and there's that card. This one's one of my favorites. I love the green color with the craft and the white. Very clean and simple, which is definitely my style. Now again, you can use these just like you do the other sentiments and just add a stamped sentiment. So you can buy stamp sets fairly cheaply that are just all sentiments. I love just kind of the block letter ones. This is a stamp set from Concord 9th. I love the style of the sentiments in it. I have a very simple thank you that I'm stamping in black ink along the bottom. Again, adding that foam tape. And then I went ahead and matted this onto some light gray cardstock that has a little bit of a texture to it. Then I'll go ahead and apply that onto the card base with some more adhesive, and that card is done. Again, super simple. Love this one too. So we've used both card fronts now. We're going to move on to those silhouettes that are in the set. I love these little guys, and one of my favorite ways to use them is just to pop them up onto a piece of cardstock with a nice bright bold color behind them that's slightly smaller than the cutout, so it kind of hangs over. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm taping off a piece of watercolor paper to create just a little bitty square or rectangle in the center of that watercolor paper. I'm using some powdered watercolors here, but that is because I want a really bold color. You can get the same exact look with acrylic paint, with gouache. You could do just some ink blending. You could just do a piece of cardstock as well. However, I really wanted it to be flat. I wanted it to kind of soak into the paper and not have any extra dimension at all with this. That's why I'm doing it this way. But there are a lot of different ways to do this same exact look with what you have on hand. I went ahead and added that powdered watercolor, and I'm just smoothing it out. And again, you can see how bold of a color this is, and I love it. Then once it's dry, I can remove that painter's tape. This is a low-tack painter's tape. You can find it on Amazon, at Home Depot, at your local paint store. And I will leave that link down below as well. But this gives nice crisp lines, but it's not so hard to remove that it rips your paper a ton. And the best way to remove painter's tape is just to pull it right back on itself nice and slowly. If you see it start to rip, move to the other side. And then onto that nice bright color, I'm going to add one of my silhouette plants. You could do this with anyone. I just happen to love the way this one kind of hangs off the side and flows over the entire square. And then I am going to use that same Concord 9th stamp set. Again, I'll leave it linked down below. And some brown ink to tie into that craft cardstock. This is VersaFine Clair and Pinecone. I stamped that high U on the bottom and put the whole thing onto a card base with just some regular adhesive. Love, love, love the way this one turned out with those bold colors. You can also use them with different die cuts or different things that you've cut out. So here I went ahead and cut out a frame, a craft frame, added a hello that I cut out with white cardstock, and then I'm going to apply that frame with some foam tape onto a piece of pattern paper. That's going to give me a nice shadow box look, and I've got my hello sentiment on the bottom, and the only thing left to do is to put this onto a card base with some regular adhesive. Again, just tape adhesive. And then after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and pop up that little white plant. It's the same one I used before. However, I just sized it down in my program and cut it from white cardstock instead. So you can get tons of different looks, tons of different sizes just by switching up the color of cardstock and the way you size them. And I love the shadow box look of this card. That is it for the SVG files. However, I know that not everybody has an electronic cutting machine. I didn't for years. They're quite pricey. I get it. But a lot of us have die cut machines and we have dies. So let me show you some photos of ones I've done with dies that I had on hand and just a die cut machine. A lot of these I turned into shaker cards, like this here that I did with a cactus die. I just cut out 4 and did some ink blending behind it. I also did the same thing with that same Concordonite stamp set and the feather die. Added a little stenciling behind it, and that one is the same exact look. Now the next 2 cards are exactly the same technique. I just incorporated a stained glass window into them. I will leave that video linked in the top right hand corner if you want to check out that technique too, but the same principles apply for the beginning of it. So that is going to do it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do want to purchase that PNG and SVG file, the link will be down in the description box below, as well as all the supplies that I used today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy crafting!